Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Rome Business Radio. My name is Roger Manus, and we are coming to you from the Etowah Employment Studios here in downtown Rome, Georgia. Our guest today is Matt Robbins, the Senior Vice President and Senior Lending Officer of Greater Community Bank. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Roger, and congrats on the new venture.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. We're very hopeful about the Rome business community and being able to help people connect and network and tell their stories and tell the stories of their friends and clients. So let's start with your story and the story at Greater Community Bank. If you could just give us a little bit of background about the bank itself and how it got started and where things stand today.
Sure. The bank was started in 1996, founded by Tom Caldwell, founded as a relationship small community bank. That has not changed over time. What has changed over time is maybe some of the delivery channels that have been technologically enabled. And our footprint. About 10 years ago, we opened a branch in Calhoun, Georgia. We have 2 branches here in Rome and soon to have a branch in Cartersville.
When will the Cartersville branch be open?
We hope in a couple months, and which will start as a limited service bank and grow into full service.
So you're hiring in Cartersville.
We're hiring. That's correct.
So basically, small town focus. Small town bank, customer service, face-to-face, but you do offer the technologies. Talk about that hybrid relationship that this bank offers the customer.
Sure. Over time, the traditional, if you will, loan application process is you would come into the institution to apply for the loan. And you can still do that. You can call us by phone or you can come into the branch. We have a wonderful loan staff that can help you through that process. But here in the last really year, we've have a web application, an online application service where you can apply for a loan online. And because we've come to realize that a lot of folks work during our business day. So they're at work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, and that's when the bank is open. So if someone after hours, our website's open 24/7. Our application is open 24/7. So if there's assistance needed or if you would like to apply for a loan after hours, the web portal can facilitate that. And then we can also provide a personal touch. So we're just not a personal bank or a technology bank. We can provide that hybrid approach, which has provided a lot of benefit to us and our customers over the last 12 months.
What is it that is your personal story of how you got involved in banking? I know you were very active in sports.
Sure.
and pursuing the baseball career, but
Sure.
now you're out handing out money.
Yeah, played lots of baseball growing up. Was fortunate to play at the University of Georgia. Graduated from Georgia in 2007. Played baseball from 04 to 07 there. But got done playing ball, and the Major League Baseball draft has 50 rounds in it, 30 some odd teams, so 1,500 players were selected in that draft, and I was not one of them. So
Sorry.
Yeah, right. And got a call from David Lance, and I had known David my whole life at that point, and he said, "Why don't you?" He asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him I didn't know, and he said, "Well, why don't you come be a banker until you can figure it out?" And here I am, I guess close to 15 years later, still working with David. David's been great to me. Second bank with David as we started at North Georgia National in Calhoun and now at Greater Community in Rome.
And you work in Rome but live in Calhoun, correct?
That's
so
correct.
You're very familiar with the customer base of Northwest Georgia.
That's correct. Commute in every day. And again, like I said, we have a presence in Calhoun as well. And that corridor, the 75 corridor, the 27 corridor, we think is a great market to be in.
What are the challenges of being a small town customer service oriented bank?
There's probably lots of challenges. Competition's tough. I guess it's somewhat fortunate. There are a lot of banks in Rome. There are a lot of banks in Calhoun. So the competition is somewhat fierce. And it forces us to be diligent in the decisions that we make on the credit side of the bank. And so that's what I would say. And the rapid adoption of technology and in the fintech sector has been provided lots of challenges to us and will continue to provide lots of challenges, but opportunity as well.
So you guys strive for that harmonious balance for the customer with technology, but face-to-face hometown customer service.
Sure,
correct?
That's correct. We think it's the best of both worlds.
And what is the feedback you get from this business model from your customers and things like that?
So far, so good. Again, because we can provide, across the spectrum delivery channels from, 100% personal to 100% technologically enabled, if you will, and anywhere in between.
And as a lending officer, what is it you need to hear or see when somebody comes in and say, I'd like to borrow this amount of money for this thing,
Sure.
whether it be a business or a piece of property or whatever? What are you listening for?
We're listening. Well, first, we'd like to provide a couple pieces of advice to our customers, even before seeking a loan, if you will. We want them to be proactive, and we can help them be proactive. But a lot of us have cars financed, or we have homes financed. The customer, before they walk into a dealership or start looking at homes, they need to determine a budget. A lot of poor decisions can be made if you walk into a car dealership and buy a car on the fly, right? So we want them to be...
So wait, a red sports car for a middle-aged man, convertible, a midlife crisis loan is what you're talking about.
Just think about that a little bit.
A midlife crisis loan, avoid those.
Sure.
Okay.
But we want them to be proactive. We want them to determine a budget. We want them to be aware of their credit scores. Because the lower the score is, the higher the cost of credit, and it might not be the best time if we're dealing with a lower score to borrow money. But we can help a customer with that, and we can put them into alternatives to credit building products to where they can take advantage of the opportune time to make those purchases.
So it's not just a matter of somebody coming in to meet with you and being told yes or no. You will work with them. You will help them chart a course that best suits their needs.
Sure. We think that's what small town banking and relationship banking is to help them navigate those waters and chart that course. And once they, are aware of their budget and are ready to pursue that purchase, again, I use an auto or a home because that's what most folks finance in their personal lives. Car loans are pretty simple to finance. We can get you in and out in an afternoon. We're looking at credit score, and we're looking at a debt to income ratio, which is simply your debt obligations versus the income information you provide us. If that checks out, we can process that pretty quick. We also have a personal loan, sort of sprint product that we can get you in and out of the bank in about 20 minutes. And that's for your higher credit score clients, 700 plus. But the response we've received on that product is great, just because we've eliminated the process can be cumbersome at times, and we've eliminated that certainly in that product. In regards to a mortgage loan, it's first our mortgage lenders, Terry Ainsworth here in Rome and Rhonda Smith and Calhoun are wonderful. If you're seeking a home or in the market for a home, we think it's best to reach out to them and let them provide you some advice on what can expect, the timeline, what documents will be needed. And again, that's the personal touch component of that. And where you can apply through our website to get a mortgage loan as well. And it will provide you all that information as well as your contact information. So again, a hybrid approach on the mortgage side that has worked very well for us. And
it can't hurt for people to come in and explore. Some people may be intimidated by a bank.
Sure.
They may be overwhelmed by they're going to need all this information. But at the core of it, you can work with them.
We're here to help. Yeah. We're here to help facilitate those parts. We understand that a home purchase is tremendously important in someone's life and is a big step. The same with a car. And so we're here to help. Some folks might not understand that process, and we want to provide as much clarity to that as we can and transparency as we can. And so, yeah, if you're seeking to purchase anything and think you need to finance that purchase, seek us out, reach out to us, whether that be to walk into one of our branches, to call us on the telephone, or to seek us through our web portal. We can help and are here to help.
What has been your experience by and large with the Rome business community in general? Because part of this show and part of the existence of the podcast here is to explore that and to help create relationships and introduce people who may not have met yet, and they can perhaps do business together. Sure. What is your impression and understanding of the Rome business community?
This community is great.
Yeah.
And we're extremely fortunate to operate in the communities that we do. Something that's very interesting about Rome and Floyd County to me is how diversified the economic base is, in that you don't have any segment that's 30% of the base or the job sector. Just going from memory, I think manufacturing is about 15%, healthcare is about 15%, and education is about 10%. And so you don't have these elements in the room and going to compare that a little bit to Calhoun or Gordon County and Whitfield County that was so concentrated in the floor covering industry that when home starts declined or started to decline in 2008, we saw what happened with that. And I know those communities are more diversified than they were, but the diversification provided some insulation to Rome and some flexibility to the business community here, which served them well, and I think will continue to serve them well in the future.
You mentioned how a certain industry can be impacted. What economic factors work in banks' favors, if it works in the favor of banking or works against it? Like what's going on in the country right now? Anything pro or con that you watch carefully?
Sure, we do. I think our interests are aligned with the general consumer's interest. We're looking at unemployment rate. We're looking at consumer sentiment. We're looking at the manufacturing index. We're looking at interest rates, and there's been lots of changes or some changes there. So we monitor those things, and a lot of those numbers look pretty good at this point, and they look pretty good locally. But again, we want to be diligent and understand that there are maybe some red flags out there, that there could be a downturn coming, and just be aware of those and be diligent in what we do.
As the bank grows, being a small town customer focused, you're very strategic, and that's why Cartersville what was the attraction to Cartersville with the next branch?
We've all seen the growth in Bartow County and what seems to be coming up the 75 corridor, in Emerson with Lake Point and everything that's facilitated. We just thought it was the next step for us, and strategically made sense. We already had some business in Bartow County, and so we're not going in there and starting from scratch, and we just thought it made the most sense for us.
This is home for you. So what does it mean for you to be a part of this organization and, in Northwest Georgia, for you personally?
It means everything. It's where I grew up, and it is home. And so I care. I think we care and about our communities, and our dollars are going back into these communities, and our success is predicated upon the success of the communities in which we serve.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. This is audio,
right?
But there has been a marketing campaign for the bank recently. I have not seen, but what is the catchphrase?
More than a pretty face.
More than a pretty face on billboard.
On billboards.
And whose picture is on this billboard?
My picture was on a billboard with the tagline "More than a pretty face," and I think that maybe there were a couple of our lenders on this same billboard.
Were you aware of this in advance?
I was not aware of this in advance, and so I was at the beach a couple of weeks ago, and I get a text message, a picture message from a customer with a picture of this billboard, and it has me and the tagline "More than a pretty face." And so I get a little chuckle out of it, and my wife's beside me, and she said, "What's so funny?" And so I just showed her my phone, and she really got a kick out of it, enough so to where I'd gotten up. She forwarded the picture to herself, passed it along to a lot of our friends who also got a pretty good chuckle out of this. Needless to say, I password back to the bank that I was going to return on Monday, and the billboard needed to be down by then. So red-faced then, probably red-faced now, but all in good fun.
So if you're curious about what Matt Robbins from Greater Community Bank looks like, you can walk in the bank and say hi, or you could maybe catch the billboard.
One of the digital billboards, I think, that's on the or corner of Turner McCall. Yeah.
If having been a former athlete, my background is in sports television. I know how locker rooms can be.
Sure.
What would teammates in a locker room have done to you with that?
Can we repeat it here? No, it would. There would have been a lot of jabbing going on for a long time. Even still, if some of my teammates got wind of this, my phone would get a few messages.
What lessons did you learn in sports growing up as a competitor that serve you well in the business and banking world?
Baseball specifically, I think you learn to fail.
Interesting.
So
because they say if you're successful 3 out of 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame.
You're a Hall of Famer.
Right.
So if you hit 300, which is getting hit 3 out of 10 times in baseball, you're extremely successful and probably going to find yourself in Cooperstown. Well, that means you're failing 7 out of 10 times. And so the most valuable lesson that I learned from sports or baseball specifically was you learn to fail. And you learn to deal with that failure. And you also in a team environment, you have a bunch of different personalities on a team. You learn how to relate, get along with one another. And the same is true for probably in our work environments. I work with about 40 different people every day. Love them to death. We all have different personalities, and that's a good thing. If we were all the same, the world would be a boring place. So a lot of valuable lessons, but number one, learn how to fail. That's great advice. And while you may be working with all these different people, you're the only pretty face on the billboard. I appreciate that. I don't know what that says, but I don't mean to embarrass you. I just thought it was a very funny story that you did not know it was coming. You had no warning. You just popped up on a billboard. No I cannot warning. Imagine. Popped up, and again, I still have not seen this billboard. I don't want to see the billboard, but a lot of people got to get a laugh at my expense. Just any final thoughts about Greater Community Bank and what it means to be a part of the business infrastructure here in Rome, and how you can help customers in Northwest Georgia, really? Yeah, we think the future is bright at Greater Community Bank, both for the bank and for the communities we serve, and currently the Rome and Calhoun. And again, I think you asked the question earlier. It's home to us, and we genuinely care about, and again, because our success is predicated upon the success of the communities in which we serve. So we think the future is very bright for both the bank and for Rome, Georgia, and Calhoun, Georgia, and soon to be Cartersville, Georgia. I agree. Thank you for helping us get started here. We're trying to network ourselves with this podcast here at Rome Business Radio, coming to you from the Etowah Employment Studios in downtown Rome. And we know that banking is the crossroads of not only personal business, but business to business. Sure. So we wanted to, make sure that you got a chance to talk about Greater Community Bank, and it was great to have you on as a guest. So thank you for stopping by, and we will definitely have you again. Well, thanks for having me, and again, congrats on the venture. Well, we appreciate it. We hope it's a long, long run we are embarking on. Okay, so that was Matt Robbins, the Senior Vice President and Senior Lending Officer for Greater Community Bank here in Rome. Thank you for your time. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Roger Manus, and we will see you next time here on Rome Business Radio.